Miss Adventure here. Thank you for joining me for another Storytime Sunday where I read one of my Learning League adventures that are available for you to purchase, or I'll offer up a library book that you can incorporate into your classroom that covers lots of these same things. So, I'm extra excited today, and I'm really going to try and rein in all my excitement so I don't ramble on for an extended period of time, because I really could. This is The Case of the Erased Union. Tomorrow is Labor Day, a holiday that is never discussed in elementary classrooms. In fact, I went to 12 years of public school, I went to college, I am in my master's, and until I sat down to make this resource, I did not know the origins of Labor Day, which I think is nuts, and a mistake on behalf of our public school system. I think we need to write this remedy and teach kids about the importance of working people coming together and demanding that they be treated with human rights and dignity. It's exciting. So let me just very quickly, if you could please let me talk really fast about the 5 unions that I'm covering, because I think it will really touch our students. So first, I'm covering mill children, and this includes all factory children. Specifically, this is about the March of the Mill Children, which did essentially end child labor in this country. And we don't know about it. What? So let's teach our kids about it. I literally cannot think about anything more motivating for our students than knowing if they had been born 100 years ago, they could be working in factories, doing hard labor, like 15 hours a day, no weekends. It's crazy that we don't talk about this stuff on Labor Day. So let's remedy that. Let's talk about it. So, mill children, a very motivating thing. The Lowell girls, which, as you can maybe see, this is a young child working in a cotton mill. Motivating. The Lowell girls were actually young women. This was one of the only jobs available for women in the 1830s, and they became the first union of working women in this country. And even though they were not granted many of their demands, it changed things for working women, these women coming together. It's really an inspirational story. Speaking of inspirational, we have the Atlanta washerwomen, which, wow, I loved learning about this story. It's an incredible story of resilience. These women, this is 20 years after enslaved people were set free. And of course, in Atlanta, families were still treating their hired help as slaves. Shocker. It had only been 20 years. And these women there was no running water. They were hauling these huge gallons after gallons, boiling in these huge hot cauldrons. They were using irons, which are hard enough today, if you ask me, were huge and heavy, and they'd haul. I mean, this was exhaustive labor, and they were paid at most $8 a month. It was absurd, and 20 washerwomen came together and were like, no more of this. And by the end of 3 weeks, 3,000 women banded together, and these were people who had previously been slaves. They stood up, they demanded their rights. They were like, we will not be invisible in this society any longer. We will be treated as equal workers. And it's awesome. I am inspired on this, our Labor Day. I could not help myself. U.S. teachers these unions have revitalized the labor movement in this country. It's actually a huge deal. We don't think about it. Strikes the past 20 years or so have not been a thing, but we're awakening the labor movement in our nation, and it's exciting. And kids want to know about this, right? So many students have seen their teachers go off into the streets and march and demand they also be treated with equal respect. And I know my students, when all that was happening here in Colorado, gosh, they wanted to know all of this. And fortunately, we were studying Cesar Chavez at the time, which was great. So it really aligned with what we were doing. So you can do the same thing. This mystery does not have to be just for Labor Day. this is a lifelong universal lesson, so use it whenever. Now, granted, the skills that I have aligned to this mystery are made for September, but that's fine. They're completely customizable. You can change them to whatever you need. And lastly, we have the steel car workers, which, again, this was a battle site between bosses and employees. 16 people died. And this was mostly an immigrant exclusive union. There were 16 different languages spoken in this factory in McKees Rocks, Pennsylvania, and 8,000 people from different factories ended up coming together. 16 languages were spoken. And it's a really cool story about immigrants being taken advantage of when they first moved here and couldn't speak English and couldn't unite because of the language barrier, but they got past it and they stood up and literally fought for their lives with their blood to demand human decency. So really cool stuff that your kids can learn about. But now, thank you for giving me that time. Do you see how that was built up for me? I clearly had to get that out of my system. But now that I have, happy Labor Day to all. And let's read the case of the Erased Union. It was Labor Day, which meant an extra day of rest and relaxation in the Learning League's clubhouse. Amar and Carmen were working on a puzzle, while DeAndre and Becca were watching some YouTube videos. I sure am happy to have a day off, smiled Amar, but I just realized that I don't even know what Labor Day is about. Huh, said Becca. Neither do I. Let's look it up. The first video that popped up on her YouTube search was titled Angry Labor Day Guy. She clicked it, and the face of a very mad history hacker popped up on the screen. The moment his voice came through the speakers, the rest of the league gathered around to hear what he had to say. I'm the boss of this company, and I make the rules, the hacker was yelling to a group of workers. But a leader stepped out of the crowd. You don't pay us well enough to feed our families, she said. So until you do, we won't work. We're on strike. This really upset the hacker, so he screamed again, your union is getting in my way. I'm going back in time and I'm going to erase every important union so this will never happen again. The video stopped and the kids looked at each other. It seems like a union is a group of workers that stand together to make sure they're treated fairly, said DeAndre thoughtfully. And work is sometimes called labor, cried Becca. Labor Day is about how hard people work, and these workers should be treated well. Let's protect these important unions. Time to help the league save American unions from the hacker. So, your students will have these 5 clues to solve in these spaces. And they're going to learn a lot about the labor movement in this country, which is long overdue to be addressed with our kids. I think they'll really resonate with these messages, and it's exciting. So, purchase The Case of the Erased Union today. You're going to have so much fun with it. I know I have. So happy Labor Day, everyone, and remember, adventure awaits.